In this screencast video lecture, we are going to see about the lipids classification and their function. Lipids are diverse group of organic molecules that have been present there in the cell. They are hydrophobic or amphiphilic in nature, that is, some part can be associated with water and some part can able to repel the water, meaning they are insoluble or only partially soluble to water, but soluble to organic solvents like alcohol and ether. They primarily compose of the elements such as carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and sometimes they can have a nitrogen, phosphorus and sulfur also. Here, if you look at into the structure of the lipids, they are generally consist of a long hydrocarbon chains or rings which make them a non-polar and hydrophobic in nature. Some lipids like phospholipids have a polar, that is hydrophilic head, and a non-polar, that is hydrophobic tail, making them the amphiphilic or amphipathic molecule. Now we look at the basic structure of the lipids. Most of the lipids are built from fatty acids and glycerol as their precursors. Fatty acids belong to long hydrocarbon chains with a carboxyl group present at one end, whereas glycerol refers to a 3-carbon alcohol molecule with hydroxyl groups that have been attached to each carbon. So in this diagram you can able to see the fatty acid chain as well as the hydrophilic head group that is made up of glycerol and phosphate molecule. Next we look at the classification of lipids. Lipids are classified into several categories based on their structure and function. They are broadly classified into simple lipids and complex lipids. And the third one is the derived lipids, and all other have been grouped as the other lipid groups of molecules. First one, the simple lipids. They are the group of lipids that have esters of fatty acids with alcohol. Here two categories are there. One is the fats and another one is the waxes. Fats are technically referred as the triglycerides, that is consists of 3 fatty acids that have been esterified to a glycerol molecule. Its main function is to provide energy storage there in the animals, and examples includes animal fat as well as vegetable oils. Next one is the waxes. They refers to molecules that are made up of esters of long chain of fatty acid with long chains of alcohol. Their main function is provide a waterproofing there, especially in the leaf surfaces, and they are also able to offer protection for the cells. Examples of waxes there present in the living system includes the bee wax, cuticle wax that have been commonly present there in the surfaces of the plants. The third one is the complex lipids. Here it consists of 3 subcategories, that is phospholipids, glycolipids and sphingolipids. These are the group of lipids. They found to have certain additional groups such as phosphates and carbohydrates. Among the complex lipid, the first one is the phospholipids, which are composed of 2 fatty acids and a phosphate group that have been attached to the glycerol molecule. The major function of these phospholipids to act as the components of the cell membrane that forms as a lipid bilayers of the cell. Example of the phospholipids includes phosphatidylcholine and phosphatidylserine. The next group is the glycolipids. The name itself says that with the lipids certain carbohydrate groups have been attached and they play a functional role there, especially in the cell recognition as well as cell signaling. Example of the glycolipids includes cerebrosides and gangliosides. The next one is the sphingolipids. They are built using sphingosine backbone instead of glycerol. The sphingosine is a 18 carbon containing amino alcohol. They play an important role in the cell membrane structure as well as in the signaling pathways. Say for example, sphingomyelin, which is an important component of the myelin sheath of the nerve cells. The next one is a ceramide, basic structural unit of the sphingosine. It acts as a second messenger in apoptosis, proliferation as well as the inflammation activities in the cells. The next category is the derived lipids. These are a group of lipid-like substances that are basically derived from the simple as well as the complex lipids. Here, two groups are there. One is the steroids, the another one is the terpenes. The first one is the steroids. They are composed of 4 fused hydrocarbon rings. They mainly play the role of hormones, especially certain reproductive hormones such as testosterone, estrogen, aldosterone and cortisol. Apart from that, the steroids play an important role there in the cell membrane, that is the cholesterol, which are important to maintain the fluidity of the cell membrane. Example of this derived group of lipids include cholesterol that plays an important role there in the fluidity of cell membrane, bile acids and steroid hormones. These steroids have a role there in the vitamin D synthesis, and another example bile acids, which also a kind of a steroids are associated there with the fat digestion inside the cells. The next one is terpenes. They are basically built of the isoprene units. Based on the number of isoprene units present, they can be classified into monoterpenes, which are commonly present there in the essential oils and fragrances. Sesquiterpenes, they are basically of a plant metabolites, and diterpenes play a major role there in the vitamin A synthesis as well as the phytol chain that have been present there in the chlorophyll. And the next one is the triterpenes. They are mainly of a precursors for steroids such as squalene. Tetraterpenes, basically which are required for the synthesis of the carotenoid structures. Thus, they play a role there in the plant defense and synthesis of certain aroma related compounds such as turpentine and methanol. Apart from that, terpenes play a role there as a precursors for steroid synthesis, vitamins and pigments, that is various kinds of carotenoids, and also in the ubiquinone synthesis. The last one is the other lipids. They are commonly referred as a lipoprotein. The name itself indicates that it is a complex of lipids as well as proteins. The classical example here are low density lipoprotein and high density lipoprotein. They play a major role in the transports of lipids in the blood system. Finally, we look at the functions of the lipids. The first one is the energy storage. Lipids, particularly the triglyceride forms of lipids, serving as a long-term energy storage molecule. They provide energy higher than that of the carbohydrates. Carbohydrates or proteins can provide only 5 kilocalorie per gram of the substance, whereas fats can able to provide 9 kilocalorie per gram of the lipid substance. Then these lipids are stored in special kind of a tissues called as adipose tissues. In the absence of readily available sugar, this fat can be broken down into fatty acids. This will be taking place mainly during the fasting as well as the strenuous exercising processes. The next one is the structural components of the lipids. Lipids are serving as a structural component there in the cell membrane, especially phospholipids and cholesterol. Phospholipids forms the lipid bilayer of the cell, whereas cholesterol is the one which maintains the fluidity of the cell membrane. So, they provide a barrier and structural integrity to the cell and membrane of the cell organelles. The next one is the sphingolipids, which are important components that are maintaining the structure and function of the nervous system membranes. Mainly, they form into the myelin sheath of the nerve cells. The next point is related to insulation and protection. A form of lipids called fat can provide thermal insulation to the body, especially in the animals that are living in the cold climates. And another form of a lipid called waxes can act as a protective layer in the plants, mainly in the form of cuticle formation, and these waxes can also found to be deposited there the animals in structures such as a ear, as a earwax. The next one is the role of fats or lipids in the cell signaling. Lipids such as steroids, mainly certain reproductive related hormones such as estrogen, androsterone, testosterone, these are all having a regulatory function in the physiological aspects of the body, especially in the growth, reproduction and metabolism of the body. Then certain special kind of steroids such as eicosanoids are acting as lipid mediators. They are mainly formed from 20 carbon containing fatty acids such as arachidonic acids, and they are functioning as local hormones of a short half-lives. Thus, they are involved in the inflammation, immune responses as well as blood clotting. The next function is the transport of fat-soluble vitamins. Lipids are the important molecules that are assisting in the absorption and transport of fat-soluble vitamins such as A, D, E and K. These particular vitamins play a major biological function there in the vision, blood clotting and maintenance of the bone health. Next one is point related to waterproofing. A special form of a lipid called waxes that have been present there both in the plants as well as animal and can able to create a waterproof barriers which protects the organism against the water loss as well as environmental damage. And the last point is related to the buoyancy. Some special kind of lipids that have been present there in the marine animals, allowing them to provide a buoyancy, that is lifting there in the water column. So this lipids presence allowing them to easily float and move efficiently there in the water bodies.